Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 60. As promised, today will be mostly about hastening the construction of new Mutigrad. Whatever new things we end up building today will be all for setting the stage for our citizens moving into the city. By the end, we will only have one hurdle to jump over, and that will be the rail tracks surrounding the place. Everything else will pretty much be ready to go. I was hoping that I could set up a temporary delivery route coming in from Mikhailovia, so we can at least deal with the consumer goods until the trains are able to enter the area. But we will end up building so many other vehicles, that there won't be any time left to set it up. We might be able to do it in the next episode, we will have to wait and see. And as we suspected, almost all the buildings are only waiting for workers at this point. The foundation works are all done, and almost all of the regular construction materials are delivered already. Some buildings will require some extra phases to finish, but the vast majority are already in the home stretch. So, to make sure that we don't waste time building things that we don't really need in the immediate future, I will carefully select what we do need. First, I will cancel all CO assignments for both Adamski and Bobinski. And then I will select everything our citizens would need to have a comfortable life as soon as they move in. That includes sport, culture, consumer goods, safety, both from crime and fire. They will also need schooling and childcare. Basically, I build all the service buildings, and some of the more central apartment towers. Everything else can wait. I also make sure that our track layers continue working on the rails around the city. We will definitely need access to the coal drop-off station for our heating plant. As I look through some of the buildings, I can see all the materials already delivered. We will soon see buildings appear around the place. Before I forget, we better add a gas station to the new gravel area. Right now, all the dumper trucks need to go all the way to Lukovo or Mikhailovia, whichever is the closest, in order to refuel. That's an unacceptable amount of downtime. Speaking of the dumpers, the last one is being built, so let's keep adding them to the stone delivery routes. And the microbuses are also done. We can add them to the commuter line as well. I think having 8 is a bit much, but I suspect we will need to expand on that production chain in the future, so having some extra buses won't hurt. The last dumper is almost done. Might as well wait for it. And with that, the gravel is almost finished. The only thing left is that gas station. Oh right. I almost forgot to change the commuter line. With that bus station done, we can tell the buses to use that instead of the gravel facility itself to drop off workers. Just until our gravel issues get resolved, let's tell these trucks to wait for a full unload. That should be a tiny bit more efficient overall, and once we get a traffic jam notification, we can just turn it off. I was gone for barely a couple minutes, and we already have 2 of the apartment towers finished. Things should start going fast from now on. There. Now we have room for over 900 workers in the center of town. As soon as their needs can be met, I will open the floodgates. In order to reach that point, we will need power in the city. Let's start adding the substations. I think I'll start with 4, and see how far that gets us. Let's not forget to build the warehouse district, so we have a place to store our goods for the local shops. With all those buildings being built, we better order the vehicles for them. We need ambulances, cops, and a couple personal cars for the secret police. We have 8 parking spots in the Vanilla Hospital. Let's just start with 4, and add the rest as the city develops. Pretty much the same for the other 2. We will build 4 personal cars for the secret police, and 4 for the regular police. I decided to keep using those Dacia models I got from the workshop a while back. We had quite a few of them in my town when I was a kid, although they were not used as police cars. Still, they are nostalgic nonetheless. I also added 4 buses to the queue. We will need them to link the different districts together, although that won't be important at the start. The gravel gas station is finished. Let's add fuel deliveries to it, and it will give the area quite a bit of a productivity boost, since the dumpers will be able to refuel locally, and aren't forced to drive quite a distance to do so in Lukovo. I didn't pay attention, and the track layers managed to finish that overpass. Despite the distances involved, they are still quite efficient. We might as well hook the new substations up to the local transformer. It's a bit of a drive away from the center, but I think it will be okay. The game breaking these cables up into smaller segments automatically is the bane of my existence. I will attempt to make them look a bit more presentable, but to no avail. I give up, just forget it. This arrangement isn't the prettiest, but it will do the job. We will need to add at least one high voltage switch to be able to wire everything up. Instead, I will build two, so we don't need to do it again in the future, especially since that would cut power to the city. The first one is right next to Bobinski, and the other one will be next to the city's transformer. Nope, that's a medium voltage one. We need high voltage. We have one extra connection left open. If we need to expand in the future, we can do so from there. Before I cut power to Bobinski though, let's make sure everything else is ready to go. Buildings are jumping out of the ground like trees. We've never been this close to the finish line. And with the station done, we can start building tracks on the other side. Ever since we finished the building foundations, and stopped using gravel, our reserves started bouncing back. Even the planetarium is finished. I really like the way our little park ended up like a nice calm spot in the middle of a busy city. The new vehicles are well on their way already. The ambulances are finished, and half the buses are also done. Since I had it on my mind, I decided to deal with the fuel deliveries now, so I don't forget it later. Nothing will happen until we have power, but it's good to know that the distribution offices are ready to spring into action as soon as we do. Since it was winter, I didn't expect much work to be done with road vehicles. So, to keep some of them busy, I decided to bring over those tower cranes we've ordered for the helicopter COs a while ago. That involved getting a couple open-hole trucks from Bobinski, and sending them over to the road depot next to the vehicle factory. Once they arrive, we can use them to load up the cranes, and drop them off at the heli offices. I only told 4 of them. We have 6 cranes, but we also have 2 more trucks in the queue, which will take care of the last 2. We can also set up the internal bus lines from Mutigrad. Before I did so, however, I remembered that we will need to rename the old lines, so they have Valentinsk in their names, instead of Mutigrad. I know I still need to rename the meat delivery lines. I will take care of those in the next episode. Instead of separating the lines by numbers, I decided to tell them apart by their orientation. We have 3 outer district bus stops, conveniently placed to the south, west, and north, compared to the one in the center. Here, I decided to stop building the TV station. That's a humongous building, and far from essential. We can finish it later. Let's also specify just which track segments our track layers are allowed to build. We really want to avoid accidentally going over the river yet, wasting time and resources on something that won't be used for years to come. And the rest of the cross-country tracks can wait until everything else is done. I suppose the medical university could also have waited, like the TV station, but at this point it was so close to completion, I decided to just get it over with. Got to love helicopter construction offices. Building these disconnected underground cables would have been impossible without them. Almost forgot to add power to the heating plant. We have a lot of vehicles ready to go. All the police cars are done, as well as the buses. Let's send them over now. That's the secret police done. The regular police is a bit further away still. In the meantime, we have our trucks ready to go at the vehicle factory. It was a simple job setting up these temporary deliveries. Pick up at the factory, and drop off at the helicopter CO. I also wanted to test if they would park themselves at their old home if I added it as the last stop, but construction offices don't act like road depots in this regard, so we will need to keep an eye on them, and send them home manually once they finish. I only send out 2 of them for now, since I was testing that idea. I will deal with the rest in a moment. Okay, that's 1 tower crane dropped off. And as I've said, it just started the loop again. It seems we can only use road depots if we want to set up a delivery we want to do only once. Let's deal with delivering the next 2 cranes to the middle office. And since the police station is now done, we can tell the patrol cars to drive themselves over to Mutigrad. I also used those red arrows in the vehicle factory storage lot to move the last 2 cranes to the top of the list. That way, when it comes to setting up the last 2 deliveries, they will be picked up, instead of the buses. And let's not forget to set up the fuel deliveries to our new buildings. I will deal with these when the fire station is done. The 2 middle cranes are still about halfway. Alright, those 2 open hole trucks are ready to pick up the last 2 cranes. They meant to be stationed at the distribution office that will move the materials to the Mutigrad Rail CO, so we can basically get 2 birds with 1 stone. Now we only need to remember to keep an eye on them, so they don't accidentally start picking up the buses by coming all the way back. Speaking of, the two middle cranes are home at last, so we can tell the last two blue trucks to head home to their CO. Looking at the police, I was reminded that adding so many new citizens to our worker pool will inevitably increase the amount of crime, so we better set up a new prison. Is it just me, or did the devs change what can build underground infrastructure? I can remember testing if tower cranes would build underground pipes about a year ago, and if I remember correctly, back then only road cranes were able to work on underground stuff. I might be misremembering things. Alright, the last two cranes have arrived. Let's make sure those two trucks park themselves in their new home, instead of going back to AutoZov for another pickup. This little escapade did mess up the neatly ordered vehicle list in the construction office, but this one I will let slide. The open hole trucks are still in two neat grouping of 4s, so it's not too bad. And the warehouse district is ready to receive fuel. That basically means the fire station and the distribution office. Here, I wanted to see if I could fill in this neighborhood with some houses, but decided to wait on it. We have more than enough things left to build. Instead, we can add the ground texture decorations for these apartment towers. That's as far as I will take it today. I will deal with monuments and vegetation in the next episode. As long as I remember it. And the vehicles just keep on getting built. We have another truck ready for the rail CO supply office, and one of the pavement rollers for the heli COs. The underground cables are pretty much done. We should start concentrating on the high voltage lines. Well, that was great timing. Just when I was about to check where the buses were, they arrive. Let's hook things up to the power network. I accidentally used shift while deleting this power line, so we will need to build the whole thing all over again, but it wasn't a tremendously long segment, so it won't bankrupt us or anything. Before we do let people into Mutigrad, we should really consider adding some extra high voltage switches around on the power network, preferably during the warmer months. I keep adding a single split off point every time I power a new area, and I fear it will come back to bite me sooner or later. The more options we have for delivering power to a new area, the better. As soon as these tracks connect up at the train station, we will gain access to some of the previously inaccessible segments, like the middle tracks on the junction going to Babinski. Yeah, that terrain clipping is a bit of an eyesore, but it could be worse. And our gravel supply is now filled to the brim. The raw stone deliveries are now clogging up the road around the Kirkomov processing plant. We can stop telling them to wait for a full unload. We might as well do the same for the new one. Things are coming together nicely. There is a bit of a shortage of prefab panels in Babinski. Hardly a surprise, now that we started working on all those big apartment blocks. They need a buttload of the stuff. It even managed to clean out about 2/3 of the storage in Ramosov. Thankfully, the factory making it has an ample supply of materials, so if we do run out, it will only slow things down a bit, it won't stop our progress. Once we get power here, we can at last start delivering the fuel. Let's see how those high voltage lines are doing these days. Only that long segment remains. Let's follow its progress to completion. Uh-oh, things are slowing down. I guess we will need one more delivery of workers before it's all finished. There. Mutigrad has electricity. Which means all the previously set up fuel deliveries are now active, and we have a lot of trucks spring to life. Which reminds me. I better check on the health of our fuel production. I've been adding new fuel consuming buildings and vehicles all willy-nilly, and I haven't been keeping an eye on our fuel reserves. Better add it to my to-do list. And with the fire station pretty much ready to go, we can buy the helicopters for it, so we don't start losing all these shiny new buildings. At this point, we only need to sort out the heating, the consumer goods, and Mutigrad is pretty much ready to receive its first inhabitants. I suppose that is one of the things we will need to rush towards in the next episode. I'm not sure building a lot of delivery trucks, just to fill up the Mutigrad warehouse is all that economical, but on the other hand, it's still going to take a while for the rail tracks around the city to be finished. We might be able to complete the first phase in the next video, but electrifying them will still take a long time, since we have a lot of ground to cover. I will make my decision before I start recording, but I am slightly leaning towards building some delivery trucks, and just storing them for later when the tracks are done. In fact, I did download a new road depot model from the workshop, from the guy who made quite a few of our modded buildings already, so I might give that a try. It has a lot of parking space, so it will be the perfect place to store those trucks. I think someone did recommend me getting it in the comments before. Now it might actually be something we need to seriously consider building. As for the water side of things, we didn't bother doing it today. In fact, we have a couple options on how we can proceed. We can carry on like this, doing small parts every now and then, abandon the feature, which is out of the question, or just let me design the whole thing off camera, and deal with the construction during the live recordings. I will post a community poll after the video is online, so you lovely people can let me know which one you'd prefer. Anyways, I hope you liked the video. If you did, you can support me on Ko-fi, for which you can find a link in the description. If you are not the donating type, that is fine too, you can still support me by leaving a like, or subscribing to the channel, which just might motivate me to make more. Until then, see you later.